How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. It is an open line Friday, 877-973-7425. If you wish to be on the program, we got to get to the John Bolton news here out of the gate. We're waiting for the President of the United States, who said he would be speaking sometime around noon. Let me give you my thoughts on the John Bolton situation. I know John Bolton a little bit, and I am of two minds on this. And I'm not strident on either one. Obviously, my initial gut reaction is that he's been a pretty vocal and open critic of the president. I know people who worked in the president's first term who are afraid of harassment this term, and they're critics and they keep their mouths shut, or they try to be loyalists as publicly as they can because they're worried about being bullied by the president and his team. And obviously the gut reaction of people on television is that, oh, this is Donald Trump silencing his critics. He's an authoritarian. That's part of my gut. Part of my gut is people who have been in Washington a long time are talking heads and get some level of clout oftentimes over time as they rise in stature within a movement, think themselves above the law, and there may be a there there. They had to go to court and get a warrant. They had to get judicial permission. They had to be able to state the evidence they had. And yes, the cynics will say that give them enough time, they can indict a ham sandwich. Yes, that's true. But they had to go to a court in Maryland where the judges are not necessarily as favorable to the Trump administration as they are in other places. And they were able to get a judge to sign off on a raid of John Bolton's home. So maybe there is a there. All of that is to say, I'm not digging my heels in. During the Biden administration, there were, of course, the raids on Jeff Clark. They perp walked him out of his house, and Roger Stone. There was the Mar-a-Lago raid. And if Democrats think that this is going after your political enemies, they didn't pay attention to what Democrats did to Donald Trump. That doesn't justify this. Two wrongs don't make a right. But for them to say this has never been done before and this is unusual, they haven't been paying attention. They haven't cared. It would be very, very troubling if this were a raid on John Bolton solely to intimidate him or others. And I will tell you, in all candor and honesty, there are those who work for Donald Trump, his first term, who are keeping their mouths shut because they're afraid this is the sort of stuff that he would do. My gut overall, though, tells me this. That's too easy. It's too easy. Here's where I am in society overall, where politics are, where everything, and this, by the way, this is also why I'm somewhat skeptical of a lot of the stuff being trotted out by the Trump team and Tulsi Gabbard on the Obama involvement in the Russiagate stuff. It fits too easy. It just fits too easy into the narrative. The Russiagate stuff, oh my gosh, it turns out every last thing that was believed by the right turns out to be exactly true the way the right believed it. That doesn't happen. And yet that's the Tulsi Gabbard stuff on Obama and who knew what and what they were doing and how they were seeing. That's exactly the way they've scripted this. And it's a script. And it's really convenient that everything you thought was true is true exactly the way you thought it was true. That's not how life works ever. Even the stuff that you think is true that turns out to be true is often true not quite the way you thought it, and yet in this case, exactly so. I don't think that's right. It makes me skeptical. And that's what's going on here with John Bolton. The media wants us to believe that Donald Trump's an authoritarian who is going to send law enforcement, the FBI, after those he disagrees with. And oh my gosh, it's played out exactly as the media predicted in every single way, going after the people they predicted it was going to be. That's just too easy, and life doesn't work that way. So that leads me to believe there might just be a there, and that John Bolton might have flown too close to the sun, might have been riding high in his britches a little bit, and there's something there. That's where I am on this. So all that to say, I'm divided. I do have concerns about both parties bullying people, particularly within their parties, who disagree with them. The Democrats have done it. The Republicans do it. I do. But there's just my spidey sense is that it's just way too conveniently playing to the script the media and Democrats wanted, in the same way the Russiagate stuff does for the Republicans. And I just have been around long enough to never see life work exactly that way. When everything falls into place exactly the way you said it would fall into place, confirming every single one of your priors, there's a story being told that isn't quite right. And so that's why I'm not willing to jump immediately to condemnation of, oh my gosh, this is, they're coming for John Bolton because he's a critic. It could very well be he has kept classified evidence and was a source of leaks against Donald Trump. That is the allegation. And you got a federal judge, magistrate at least, to agree to this raid. And it gives the Democrats fodder to talk about. But again, it's like the Republicans in Russiagate. It just lines up too conveniently to all of their presuppositions, and that never happens in reality, which is why I think there could be a there, and I will wait and see. While, by the way, I also think, they don't want me to use the R word anymore. People get offended by the R word, the R word. You would never call someone who was that word. You only call stupid people that word for behaving that way. But nonetheless, so we here like to say 30 feet above the runway, because if you fly an Airbus plane and you get to 30 feet over the runway, it starts saying the R word twice to remind you to pull back and slow down. So I think there are a lot of people who are 30 feet above the runway when they're dealing with this sort of thing. And also, I think the people who are really at 30 feet above the runway are the ones who are saying this is to distract from Jeffrey Epstein. There literally were Democrats on television this morning. There's a Democratic congressman saying this is to distract from Jeffrey Epstein. If you believe that the John Bolton raid this morning at 7 a.m. was to distract from the Jeffrey Epstein situation, you are simple Jack flying a plane 30 feet above a runway. I can't express it any other way other than using the R word to describe you, and they have asked me not to use the R word. People get really upset about it these days. Still a perfectly good word. Nonetheless, you're 30 feet above a runway, Simple Jack, if you believe that this is about Jeffrey Epstein. If you don't know who Simple Jack is, you should watch Tropic Thunder. Great movie. I highly, highly, highly enjoyed that movie. And while this is happening, we're not talking about what actually should be the biggest story of the day. And this actually is, I think, the biggest story of the day. Jin Chao Wee, known as Patrick Wee, has been convicted of espionage. He sold Navy secrets to a Chinese intelligence officer. Jin Chao Wee, 25 years old, goes by Patrick Wee, was found guilty of 6 crimes, including conspiracy to commit espionage, an unlawful export of, and conspiracy to export technical data related to defense articles in violation of the Arms Export Control Act and the International Traffic in Arms Regulations. He was found not guilty on 1 count of naturalization fraud. Prosecutors said Wee used his position as a machinist mate on the amphibious assault ship USS Essex at Naval Base San Diego to feed information to a Chinese intelligence officer who recruited Wee on social media in February 2022. He held a U.S. security clearance and had access to sensitive national defense information, including the weapons on the Essex. Amphibious assault ships allow the military to project power and maintain presence by serving as the cornerstone of the Navy's amphibious readiness and expeditionary strike capabilities. An attorney for We said there was no doubt his client's actions were wrong, but he never intended to harm the United States. According to the news releases, the intelligence officer initially presented himself as a naval enthusiast working for a shipbuilding company in China. First of all, I would note, Mr. President, why have you not complied with the law and shut down TikTok? Why have you not complied with the law and shut down TikTok? The law says TikTok should have been shut down a long time ago. None of us can sue. None of us have standing to sue to make you do it, but you should shut TikTok down. This is yet another person who has spied for China and compromised national security, and we are allowing a Chinese surveillance app called TikTok to reign supreme in the United States. Why are you allowing TikTok to continue in the United States, Mr. President? Second, what the NBC News story leaves out, but what I say is actually true, is you know who encouraged him to continue spying for China? His mother. That's right. Patrick Wee's mother, according to multiple outlets and in trial, encouraged him to continue spying for China so that he could get a good job in China. The mom encouraged the spying. Her son will go to prison because the mom encouraged this. We've been a little bit too licentious in allowing foreigners into the United States to take up citizenship who don't want to integrate into and assimilate into the country, but want to keep their former country as their top priority. We've seen a couple of members of Congress who are immigrants talk about advancing the interests of their former countries, not their present country. We've been a little bit too pushed towards the left on assimilation, where we're a salad bowl instead of a melting pot. We need to get back to the melting pot. We need to do so pretty quickly, I think. We need people to assimilate into the United States, to become part of the United States, not to be Americans, but also with patriotic ties to their former home. It's possible. My grandfather immigrated to the United States. He was Swedish. So was my grandmother. And they were very pro-America and raised their children as Americans, not as Swedes. My father, who is 100% Swedish, has never been to Sweden. It is possible to raise your children as immigrants to be American. I know many Indian and Pakistani families that live in my neighborhood where the kids are as American as you and me. They've never been to India or Pakistan. They love the United States. They have their favorite football team. They have their favorite baseball team. They're as American as you and me. It doesn't mean that only white people can do it. Everybody can do it. We just have to set our minds to doing it. And we should be discouraging the salad bowl theory where everybody keeps their uniqueness in the country. No, we all blend together. A more homogenous country. The taco becomes as American as the hamburger, as American as the gumbo, as American as the corn souffle that you serve on Thanksgiving. This is appalling, though, that China continues to do this, and we continue to treat China with kid gloves. I'll believe the President of the United States is taking China seriously as a military threat when he shuts down TikTok, which is, we know, a surveillance collection operation for the Chinese. The President has not yet done that. He's been given ample opportunity to, and he needs to shut down TikTok as quickly as possible in this country. It is a surveillance app for the Chinese, and you will note the Chinese recruited Patrick Wee over social media. I don't know what app. My suspicion is TikTok, but I don't know that that's the case. But they recruited him over TikTok, or over social media, rather. I don't know that it was TikTok. And his mother encouraged loyalty to China. We got to start taking the Chinese way more seriously than we do as a military threat. We really do. And I would urge this administration to go on and get rid of TikTok, because TikTok is part of the Chinese intelligence operation. Also, I think this administration is right to start reviewing the visas of the millions of immigrants who have come to this country on visas, whether or not they're actually assimilating. There was another example yesterday of a person who is an immigrant to this country saying the United States needs to be crumbled because she's upset about our support of Israel. We've had multiple videos this week of immigrants to this country saying the United States in some way needs to be destroyed. Those are the people that we need to deport. And good for Marco Rubio for pushing to deport anyone who's immigrated to this country who wants to destroy this country. This country is the best country, and we will not stay the best country if we don't take seriously our need to lead the world, and that includes taking the bad guys like China seriously. And for those who say, well, we're becoming a banana republic because of John Bolton, again, I just think it's way too convenient, It conforms exactly to the Democrats' narrative, and life is never that simple. And for the Democrats to make hay out of this, I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach. What actually are the allegations, and what actually did they find, and what actually do they have? And if it really was just a witch hunt to embarrass him and silence him, I'll call him out because I'm happy to call him out and have been calling him out on tariffs and everything else. But I just don't know yet, and I just think it's way too simplistic of a narrative that this has fallen into for the left for it to actually be true. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. Glad to have you with me. If you would, please, it's an open line Friday. You can call in 877-973-7425. Although this is a short segment, so you're just going to have to wait. I do want you to know, though, there is other news. Jerome Powell has set the market skyrocketing, particularly the Dow now hitting record territory, suggesting there probably is going to be an interest rate cut in September, saying that there are warning signs that the economy is slowing down, and that actually is true. The interest that's coming, inflation that's coming, is mostly tariff related, so it's containable. But there are warning signs in the economy, and a lot of them, frankly, are related to the tariffs too. So probably going to have a rate cut coming very soon as next month, according to Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve. Now, I got to tell you about Vision Computer. If you're looking to save money for your company, you've got managed IT, what does it hurt you to call 404 Compute and talk to Vision Computer? And it doesn't matter if you're in Hawaii or Maine, Washington or Florida. It doesn't matter. Vision helps companies across the country with managed IT. And what really sets them apart is that you don't have to do email tickets and AI chats. You pick up the phone and you call, and they answer the phone in 15 seconds or less. So your employees never have to try to describe what's going on in an email. They just pick up the phone and get somebody on the phone, and they can get back to work. It keeps you more productive. Call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com to find out more. If you call them at 404-COMPUTE for yourself or for your company and tell them Eric sent you, you're going to save some more money. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Let Vision see if they can save your company money. They can also build you great computers as well and save you money there. And they are very hands-on, world-class customer service for your home, your office, your family. Let them build your computer. Let them service it. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Welcome back. Eric Erickson here, 877-973-7425. Let's go to the phones here. Nick, you're up first. Welcome.
Thanks, Eric. Really enjoy the show. And I enjoyed the comments you made about TikTok and the ban. I get that. Right? We know the Chinese are spying on us. But, and on the other token, I'm wondering if we don't shut that down because it gives us insight into how they are spying. So we can almost use that as much of a tool as they do to see how they're collecting data and their methods of madness. I'm just wondering if you have any insight on that and how we could potentially use that.
We can't. That's why the law was there to get rid of it, is because everything is routed through China. We don't have access to those servers, so we can't actually see. Yeah, I mean that's the problem here. Is so every just so everybody understands here. So every social media company on planet Earth that runs through the United States has servers in the United States, and they run their algorithm on the servers. In TikTok's case, they have servers in this country that put the videos on, but then everything is transferred to China, and the algorithm is actually produced in China and sent back. It's the only company that does that.
I get that, but just as we think the Russians are spying on us and we have hacks and things, it's not too far-fetched to think that maybe we can hack in and get an insight into that. But again, I'm leaning on you for your insight and your thought process.
So remember, there's only one pipe into China.
Sure.
If you pull up the list of internet cables into the United States beyond satellite, you've got a bunch of them that come in for the West Coast and the East Coast. There's only one in China, and it goes through the Chinese military. It's harder to hack into China remotely. You have to actually be in China to hack because everything gets filtered through the Chinese
you're saying
military.
Almost.
Yeah. So we can't go in via satellite, and we can't go in through wired connections without it passing through. There's one access point. And think about this. They call it the Great Firewall of China. There is a single access point to connect the internet to China. The Chinese have a massive intranet inside China, but to get to the outside world, you have to go through a military installation that monitors every bit and byte that comes in and out of the country. So that's why it's harder to hack into China without physically sending a spy to China to do it. But then if you did it, you couldn't get the data back out over the internet. You have to physically take it back out of China because of their internet. I mean, it's to control their people.
You made a good point. The intranet is a whole lot different than the internet. So I can see how that would be a challenge. And, thanks again for your insight on that, because it's almost too glaringly obvious, but when you put it like that, it makes way more sense. And then TikTok is really a threat to, our security and our kids.
And so just so you know, Nick, and for everybody else, do you know the number one way that the Chinese use TikTok? And this actually, if you have an adopted kid or know a family with an adopted kid from China, the number one way China uses TikTok, and we know this from their own documentation, I'm not making this up, it's actually in writing, is they're building facial recognition of Chinese children adopted into the United States because they still believe they're Chinese citizens. And so as your Chinese adopted child grows, China's building facial recognition profiles of your child if they use TikTok. They do facial recognition through TikTok of journalists so they can monitor journalists. But it's not just that. They also use the algorithm to feed propaganda. So, for example, if you go on TikTok and you start looking about the Palestinian-Israeli situation, you've got a new account. And by the way, if you want to do this, go get yourself a new phone. Don't tie it to your phone and don't connect it to Wi-Fi. Why? Because the moment you bring this new phone home and connect it to your Wi-Fi, they're going to think it's related to you. So keep cell service. Brand new phone. Make it a burner phone so you pay cash. It's not tied to you. Download TikTok. New account. Don't use your old account. Get a new account. Download TikTok. Look for the Israeli-Palestinian matter. You're going to start getting flooded with pro-Hamas propaganda. You're going to start getting flooded with pro-Chinese propaganda. Now, set the algorithm so it believes you're a high school kid in the United States. You're going to start getting flooded with pro-transgender propaganda. Get a burner phone. You pay cash for it. It's not tied to you or your Wi-Fi, your credit cards, anything like that. They can't tell it's you. Go start it like it's a new one. Say you're a high school kid. You're interested in these topics, and watch the Chinese algorithm begin to try to indoctrinate you against the United States. TikTok is a massive threat. It's not just a threat because the Chinese are spying on it. It's a threat because the Chinese are using it to program our kids against American values. Now, I got to move on. I want you to know I saw something last night online, and I thought it was AI generated, and it wasn't. It was real, and it has blown up. I've told you about the situation in Loudon County, Virginia. In Loudon County, Virginia, 3 boys in a boys' locker room were complaining to each other about a girl now being in the locker room. The girl now identifies as a boy. And in Loudon County, Virginia, not only do they allow the girls in the boys' locker room and the boys into the girls' locker rooms if they so identify, but if you complain, you get in trouble. In this case, the 3 boys did not like having a girl in their locker room. They're talking about it, and she videotapes them in violation of the rules. She does not get in trouble. The 3 boys get in trouble. 2 of the 3 boys get suspended. The 3rd boy does not get suspended because he's Muslim. The Muslim parents are as angry about it as the non-Muslim parents. And there was a rally yesterday in Loudon County, Virginia, and Winsome Sears is the Republican gubernatorial candidate, and she went there. For those of you who don't know Winsome Earl Sears, she's a Marine, and she's black. Her family immigrated from Jamaica. Yes, the Republicans in Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy, are running a black woman who is a Marine to be governor of the state of Virginia against a very milquetoast Democrat named Abigail Spanberger. Winsome Sears showed up yesterday in Northern Virginia to side with the 3 boys and their families who are being punished by the school system. Well, 2 of the 3 being punished by the school system because the boys were uncomfortable having a girl in their space. And a white woman who I'm told is a local government employee showed up and had this sign: "Hey, Winsome, if trans can't share your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water fountain." I'm going to read it to you again. I thought this was a joke. I thought it was AI. I couldn't believe some white woman thought this was a good idea. Hey, Winsome, if trans can't share your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water fountain. It's good white woman equating transgenderism to the civil rights struggle where black people weren't allowed to use water fountains, weren't allowed to sit in restaurants, weren't allowed to sit at the front of the bus. She's equating the trans struggle to Jim Crow and the civil rights struggle. In point of fact, a trans person can use the bathroom of their sexual identity. A black person, however, in Virginia for a very long time couldn't use the water fountains that white people used. That this white woman can't understand the difference and why that might be racially offensive tells you how broken the left is on this stuff. One person in the background with a trans flag held up a sign, "Keep guns out of schools, not kids out of bathrooms." But this one really takes the cake. White woman with that uppity, progressive white woman haircut. Hey, Winsome, if trans can't share your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water fountain. She's willing to discriminate against black people if we don't allow girls into the boys' bathroom and boys into the girls' bathroom. If boys are not allowed to use the girls' bathroom and girls are not allowed to use the boys' bathroom, well, then the black people can't use the water fountains anymore. That's where this white woman is. Winsome Earl Sears, I've invited her on the radio today. I'm not sure she's going to be able to make it on to talk about this, but she was on Fox News this morning talking to Brian Kilmeade about this.
Virginia doesn't have trouble understanding that our young girls ought to be safe undressing in their locker rooms and not having biological men a full frontal nude in front of them. And by the way, boys have the same right. Virginia doesn't have any issue with that. It is these 5 Northern Virginia schools that are having some sort of issue understanding that safety means safety and education is what they're supposed to be about, not about these other issues. Parents don't send their children to school not being safe. They want to learn reading, writing, and arithmetic. This is not hard. Do your jobs.
And because you're saying this, they're going after you personally and about your background.
I mean, what level of tone deafness? I talk to you all the time about how progressives are in a bubble. Like, you can go all day as a progressive and never have to encounter someone who disagrees with you, but it's real hard for a conservative to do the same. And this white woman really thought it was a good idea. And by the way, that they caught her on film with the chairman of the local Democratic Party, who told her she might not want to hold up the sign because it's provoked people on the right. Not because the sign was bad, not because it wasn't a good thought, but because it was provoking people on the right. She might not want to hold the sign up. It was going to go viral and possibly make them look bad. The Democrats didn't care. By the way, Abigail Spanberger said nothing until just a little while ago. And interestingly enough, she has now condemned it. It's taken her about 12 hours or longer to condemn, more than 12 hours, to condemn the sign. And what she claims is that she said something about it last night, which she didn't actually say. She retweeted a reporter. She didn't say anything about it. Only now is she releasing a statement condemning it. And it's just wild to me that it is, I don't know, more than 12 hours that the Democratic candidate for governor in Virginia had to actually wait more than 12 hours to say something critical about this sign. I don't think this speaks well of Abigail Spanberger. I mean, your gut reaction should be that it's bad. Your gut reaction should be to condemn this level of racism from this progressive white woman. But, your gut reaction should be that boys shouldn't be in girls' bathrooms. Your gut reaction should be that girls shouldn't be in boys' bathrooms. Your gut reaction should be that boys videotaped in a bathroom among boys, being boys, talking to other boys, is not something that those boys should be punished for, but the girl videotaping them should be punished. Here's the thing. Things have not been going great for the Republicans in Virginia. Winsome Sears has been running behind Abigail Spanberger. This kind of has given Winsome Sears the traction she needed to close out this campaign. The polls have suddenly gotten close in Virginia. And now this. Jason Meares is the attorney general in Virginia. He's outperforming all the other Republicans of the state. Great guy. I wish he was the attorney general of the United States, but I'm glad he is the attorney general in Virginia. And Jason Meares has a huge opening with the way these schools are treating the boys in Northern Virginia. This education issue in Northern Virginia continues to alienate progressives in Virginia from everyone else. Even Democrat parents in Northern Virginia, a lot of them are not down with what the progressives are doing, and it's giving them license to either vote Republican or sit home. You will recall when Glenn Youngkin was running against Terry McAuliffe, it was a dogfight until the end, and it was a debate where Terry McAuliffe said parents shouldn't have a say in their kids' education. And that education moment, that statement, is what galvanized the Youngkin campaign and put wind in their sails to get across the finish line ahead of Terry McAuliffe and carry the Republicans. If Winsome Sears gets people to understand that this is where we are as a society. Progressives believe boys should be in girls' bathrooms and girls in boys' bathrooms, and the boys should be punished if they object to the girl. And the progressives believe that this is like blacks and water fountains of the 1950s and 60s. Suddenly, she's got a galvanizing message to remind people why they want to reject the progressive left. And frankly, she should play this up and talk about nothing else for the next 2 months as this campaign continues on. Now, let me tell you about Old Glory Bank. You want to make your kids money smart? Go to oldglorybank.com/smart. oldglorybank.com/smart. They've set up a free portal for anybody to go to get their guides on financial literacy for kids and teens and families. You can use them as part of a homeschool curriculum. You can use them around your kitchen table, and you can help your kids generate some smarts on money. oldglorybank.com/smart. oldglorybank.com/smart. And if your kids need a checking account, well, they got great custodial accounts there. They've got great online accounts. I've got a bank account with them as well. But right now, they really want you to focus on helping your kids develop some financial sense while they're young. You can use their tools for free. oldglorybank.com/smart is where you go to get the materials for free. oldglorybank.com/smart. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, terms and conditions apply. Okay, again, I saw a story and I thought it was a fake story, but it's real. A prominent right-wing extremist who once dismissed transgender people as fascists and parasites on society has won permission to serve a prison sentence in a German women's jail after formally changing gender. Marla Svenja-Libschik, 53, who until December went by the name Sven, was convicted of inciting hatred, criminal insults, and trespassing, and handed an 18-month sentence for, among other things, trying to sell a baseball hat over the internet as a deportation aid. Questions are now being raised as to whether the neo-Nazi exploited a recent reform that made it easier for people to alter their officially registered gender. Under previous German law, gender reassignment required two separate supporting opinions from medical specialists. In November, however, the last government Self-Determination Act reduced the threshold to simply signing a form at a local registry office. Liebich has been a leader in the East German extreme right scene since the 90s and ran the regional chapter of an explicitly Nazi organization called Blood and Honor in Saxony-Anhalt. Blood and Honor was banned in 2000. He later organized numerous demonstrations in Halle, his native city, where the local branch of Germany's domestic intelligence agency described his activities as unparalleled. He's a neo-Nazi. He's actually been supporting Vladimir Putin as well, pushing Russian propaganda, and they sentenced him to 18 months in prison. So he went down to a local registry office and declared, "I'm now a woman," and has put on a dress and says, "You can't send me to the men's prison now." It's just he's treating it as a costume. And J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, is pointing out that women, apparently feminine, being a woman is now just a costume. A man can take on and off whenever he wants. And she's right. This is the logical outcome of the transgender movement, you should understand, that you get out of being punished in a men's prison by saying, "Oh, nope, I'm a woman now. I declare it to be so, and everybody's got to believe me." This guy's going to get away with it. Kudos to him, at least, for making a mockery of the law in Germany that deserves to be mocked. But he's a terrible person who now gets to go hang out with a bunch of women in prison instead of the men.